Hey, it's Clay Trader, and this will be a robotic trading quick lesson entitled What is Level 2? What we're going to do is just go over a very simplistic definition of Level 2s, how they work, what makes them move around, everything like that. If you're not familiar, have no idea what I mean when I say Level 2, then this video is going to be perfect for you. Now, on that same note, if you're looking for some sort of big, in-depth, detailed technical explanation, this video is probably not going to be for you. As you can see down here, I'm using the KISS method with this video, which is keep it simple, stupid. At the end of the day, level 2s are just a tool to make you money. So that's what I'm going to stick with, is just all the overall, how they function and stuff like that. I'm not going to get down to the nitty-gritty technical details because, in my opinion, at the end of the day, none of those really help you make any money. So what is level 2? Level 2 is essentially just a big auction. You can see it as people write it down as level 2, L2, L2 again, using the Roman numerals. So whenever you see any of these or any derivatives of them, they're all meaning the same thing. So level 2 and L2, exact same thing. And the first thing that I think a lot of rookie traders and people just into the markets don't realize is stocks do not have just one price. They have two prices, and we'll get into more on that in a little bit. But level 1 quotes, that's where you see the one price. So here, McDonald's, if you pull it up on Yahoo or Google Finance, something like that, you're going to see that the price is $54.95, but that's not really the price, because the key question you need to ask yourself is, what price can I buy or sell for? You might be able to sell it for $54.95, or you might not be able to. Once again, you'll be able to see that more clearly going as we go through the video. But level 2s are essentially behind the scenes of level 1 quotes. So again, this is the key point here, is stock prices do not have one price. So when you go to Yahoo Finance or Google Finance and type in a ticker symbol and it pulls up some number, that's not actually the real price. That's the latest trade, but that's not the price per se. There's three key things that are at the auction. We have the stock, the buyers, and the ticker and the sellers. So here is a picture of a traditional auction. This painting is actually the stock. The guy up here, offering things for sale, is going to be the sellers, and otherwise known as the ask. And out here in the audience, the people saying, hey, I want to buy a stock for a certain price, these are the bidders, and in level 2 lingo, known as the bid. So who attends the auction? Who is actually at the auction on these level 2s? These are what are called market makers. And market makers, this is where I could go into a lot more detail than what I am, but at the end of the day, I think this covers it for what you really need to get out of it. But market makers, they represent their clients. And I say represent because, or I underline that because that's a very key distinction. So who are their clients is the next obvious question. You and me, hedge fund stockbrokers. Basically, if you're trying to sell or buy stock, a market maker is going to represent you. They're kind of like a lawyers in that sense. You don't necessarily have to go to the courthouse or go to the judge if you hire a lawyer, because they're going to represent you. Same thing here. If you want to buy stock or sell it, you find a market maker, and they're going to represent you in the transaction. So if you've been cruising message boards or blogs or whatever, and you see things like Knight, Auto, ETMM, ARCA, HDSN, I'm sure like you probably did the same thing like I did when I was new, thinking, oh, these must be ticker symbols and stocks. These are examples of market makers. These are some of the more common ones. So if you see these, your chances are you're going to see these. And they always get blamed for everything, when in all actuality, all they're doing is representing you. The most famous one's Knight. Knight gets blamed for everything. If there's a big selling, or if there's a lot of selling going on, people always blame Knight. But it's not really Knight. It's Knight's client. Somebody is selling through Knight that is telling him, I got to sell all these shares. So Knight's just doing what their boss is saying, which is the client. So market makers get blamed all the time, but really it's who's behind the market maker that should really be getting blamed one way or the other. And just one warning, they are always changing. I try to select the ones that have been around a while, but market makers go out of business because they do stupid things, or there's all sorts of variables, but these ones have been around for quite a while, especially Knight. And I know this video will hopefully be getting watched years from now, so I wanted to try to pick out some that I figured would hopefully still be around. But if none of these sound familiar to you while you're watching this video, chances are they've either gone out of business and somebody else has replaced them, or they switched things around. I know ETMM is E-Trade, and they used to have a different symbol for them. But just be aware of that. These things are never constant. They're always changing. But they do just the same thing at the end of the day. So when I say representing, all I mean is we have all these different characters out here. You know, we have buyers down here. Once again, these are the people in the audience. And then we have the people up on the stage. These are the people trying to sell their shares. The painting is a ticker symbol. So here are the buyers, here are the sellers, and then we have the market makers, which attend the auction for us, and they're trying to get our shares or sell them for us. So let's just take an example. We have this guy who lives in a van. You can see here he's on his computer. He decides he wants to sell some stock that he has. He will either and he's got his computer right there, so he enters in a sell order to his online brokerage, and then that triggers it to go to the market maker, and now this market maker will try to sell the shares for him. On the other side of things, we have this guy at a baseball game, or you can look down here, we got the E-Trade baby. They decide they want to buy some shares. So the E-Trade baby, he's going to call it in on his phone, or excuse me, he'll use his computer, and this guy's just going to call his brokerage here, and the brokerage is automatically going to send it to their market makers, and now their market makers are going to try to buy the stock for you. And at the end of the day, what I try to show with these pictures is at the auction, where the market makers represent us, it can be anybody. You know, it can be the professional trader, it can be some guy who lives in his van, or it can be, you know, your grandma. Same thing, you know, buyers, it can be anybody. It could be some guy at a baseball game, you know, a professional hedge fund manager or whatever, or it could be the E-Trade baby. The point being, at the auction, there's all sorts of buyers and sellers, but they're all represented by market makers. So it's not like E-Trade baby would go to the auction along with this guy. They're just going to let the market makers deal with it for them to get their shares. And that's what level 2 is showing us, is what sort of activity the sellers are doing, what sort of activity the buyers are doing, and all this activity is going to be reflected through the market makers and their actions in the way that they move around. So the dynamics, how do level 2s work and what actually makes them move? So to best go over this, we're just going to set up a little market ourselves. This market is for educational purposes. All markets obviously have more than 6 people, but like I said, for the education, we're just going to pretend this market only has 6 people. Our people are going to be, we have Michael Jordan, and he is represented by the market maker Auto. We have Jim Cramer. His market maker that his brokerage uses is ARCA. We have Oprah. Hers is Knight. Warren Buffett, he uses HDSN. We got our Hillbilly, and his brokerage uses CSTI. And then we have the Geek Napoleon Dynamite, and he's an E-Trade user, so his market maker is ETMM. These 6 people are in our little perfect market, and let's see how things work. So the basic lingo that you'll hear a lot about is the spread. The bigger the spread, the worse. You want nice tight spreads. So let's just kind of go over how this works. In each scenario, we'll build upon the other. But first, let's just establish what exactly is a spread. So the setup, we have Michael Jordan, and once again, he's using Auto. He wants to sell 10,000 shares at $1.10. Mr. Buffett also wants to sell 15,000 shares, and he wants to do that at $1.10 too. As far as buyers go, we have Oprah, who is using Knight. She wants to buy 5,000 shares at $1.05, and Cramer, who is using ARCA, wants to buy 5,000 shares at $1.05. Now, once again, this is more for the message board users and people like that at the blogs. If you were to see this 105 by 2 or 105 by 110, and then you have 2 in parentheses, all that means is that there's 2 people that want to buy at 105. So once again, this 2 here represents Michael Jordan and Mr. Buffett, and this 2 here represents Oprah and Cramer, who want to sell at $1.10. So knowing that we have $1.05 by $1.10, you just simply subtract these and you get the 5-cent spread. So there is the spread right there. Now we have the parents on level 2 is going to look like this. We lose the names, so we have Knight and ARCA. We have 2 people here that want to buy at $1.05, and Auto and HDSN both at $1.10. So this right here is known as the bid, because these are the people bidding for shares, the people out in the audience. And this is known as the ask. These are the people up on that stage that are trying to sell their shares for $1.10. Now all of a sudden we have some more action. We have Hillbilly, who he decides wants to buy at $1.07. And then we have Napoleon Dynamite, who says, you know what, I'm willing to sell for $1.09. So now all of a sudden the new appearance of the level 2s is going to be CSTI right here at $1.07. And we're going to have ETMM right here at $1.09 because Napoleon Dynamite decided, you know what, I'm willing to sell for a penny cheaper, and Hillbilly decided he's willing to pay for 2 cents cheaper. Now this is going to irritate some people because now we have these two people that just got cut in line in front of by Napoleon Dynamite here using ETMM, and same thing here. Now Knight and Arca are a little bummed because Oprah and Kramer down here, they were trying to get $1.05, and now we have the Hillbilly who all of a sudden wants to buy for $1.07. So this would be the new appearance of level 2s. So what would the new spread be? If you said 2 cents, you are correct. Once again, just subtracting the difference between the ask and the bid. Once again, these are the people up on the stage. These are the people out in the audience. So now we're going to build upon this first scenario, and in this scenario we're going to do where a buyer decides to purchase from the seller. So this just means the people out in the audience finally just say, you know what, I'm just going to buy for what the person up on the stage is offering. So with this setup, again we have Michael Jordan wants to sell $10,000 at $1.10, Mr. Buffett wants to sell $15,000 at $1.09, and Napoleon Dynamite wants to sell $5,000 at $1.09, Oprah $5,000 at $1.05, Kramer $5,000 at $1.05, and Hillbilly, who wants to buy $10,000 at $1.07. So the level 2 lingo again would just be $1.07, 1 by $1.09, 1 here. Once again, this 1 representing the highest bid, and this representing the lowest ask. And the lingo for this event, where somebody from the audience eventually just says, you know what, I want to buy from the person on stage, is known as slapping the ask or hit the ask. There's other versions of it out there, but these are the two common lingos. So scenario 2 continued up here. Once again, this is the same exact level 2s from what we just saw in the first scenario. Now we have Kramer and Oprah. You know what they decide? They just want to purchase shares for sale by Napoleon Dynamite here up at $1.09. So they're just going to change their orders and say, you know what, we're willing to buy at $1.09. However, this brings us to a problem here because Kramer wants 5,000 shares and Oprah also wants 5,000 shares. However, if you remember from the numbers, Napoleon is only selling 5,000 shares. So I don't mean to insult anybody's intelligence here, but this right here is 10K. So these two between them want to buy 10,000 shares at $1.09. However, only 5,000 are actually up for sale. So the result, Kramer was a little bit faster with his order entry, so he got his shares. So the new appearance is going to be $1.09 by $1.10. So why is this the case? Well, Oprah still wants to purchase her shares at $1.09. She didn't get them, and since she changed her order from $1.05 to $1.09, here she is now represented by Knight up here at $1.09. Kramer, Arca, he got his share, so he's gone. He's no longer needing to get any shares, so he's just simply gone from the level 2s. Napoleon sold his shares at $1.09, so he's also gone from the level 2s. Hillbilly at CSTI still wants his shares at $1.07, so there he is, right there. And then Michael Jordan, Mr. Buffett still want to sell shares at $1.10, so they still are up here at $1.10. What I'm going to do here is cut this off, and we'll continue in a part 2. I don't want this one to run too long, so we'll pick up on scenario 3, and then I want to do some play-by-play action also. So look or watch part 2, and we'll continue on with this lesson.